Joining us in the studio tonight is Professor Usman Yusuf, former Executive Secretary of the Healthcare Insurance Agency, a renowned expert in hematology, oncology, and bone marrow transplantation. He will help us share insight on leadership and his own experience at the Kuje Correctional Facility, where he spent 24 days in detention over an alleged corruption case during his time in office. And of course, if you don't know that, Professor Usman has been a renowned critic of the Bola Tinubu administration for all the right reasons, one may add. Prof, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. I appreciate you for taking the time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start with the obvious question, which is your incarceration. You started 2025 on quite the rocky note. In January, you were arrested by the EFCC, and the next couple of weeks, you spent 24 days in Kuje Correctional Facility. Without getting into the legal details, what can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, and I wrote about it even while I was in Kuje. So prior to that, and I've said it, prior to that, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government and his Gestapo, they've been monitoring me and my family electronically and physically. We can tell. So what broke the ice was a group of youth, Matasan Arewa, invited me to Bauchi. And this was on the few days on the 27th of January. And I was there in Bauchi and I spoke with them. Majority of the speakers spoke in Hausa, but I spoke in Hausa and English for wider coverage. And I spoke extensively about issues that youth should be facing, not what the politicians are telling them to face. After that, when I came back to the hotel, it was Saturday, I could see strange people in the lobby, in the restaurant, and in the hallway. And I knew they were Bola Ahmed Tinubu's goons tracking me. So when I came back home on the 29th, it was a Wednesday, I had fasted that day. My wife came up in the evening around 6:30. My wife came up to my bedroom and said, there are some people that knocked and stepped into the door, two young men in dark suit. They said I was expecting them. So I came down. They say, oh, there are people, they are operatives of the EFCC. They've been asked to come and take me. Take me to where? To the headquarters. So guys, you haven't even introduced yourselves. So they quickly, oh, sorry, sir. They brought out their badges and showed me. Say, why are you taking me? Why is your arrest warrant? Oh, we don't need that. I had come down on my jalabia, no hat and a flip-flop. And I said, okay, let me go upstairs and change. Oh, they blocked me. I asked them, allow my wife to go upstairs and bring me my stuff. They blocked me. They took me into the bus. Oh, by the time we came out of the house, there were like 5 armed policemen there, some at the back of my house, as if I was going to jump and run. I'm not a runner. I went into the bus and the driver was driving crazy as if they'd arrested Turji. And they were high-fiving themselves as if they... So we went in to EFCC, we went directly to their boss, procurement fraud section. And the boss was waiting, so 7 p.m. was waiting. And he gave me a bunch of papers. What are these? So, oh, your charges. What charges? The guy was just waiting to go home. Oh, can you sign for this? I knew if I didn't pick those whatever charges they would keep me there. I needed to give those charges to my lawyers. I signed my phone had gone dead. I had not communicated with my wife and daughter to tell them where I was and how I was doing. Well, they took me behind, the cells were behind the main building. Nobody had told me, are you going to let me go back home? No, they just took me there and, okay, went into the cell and they put me with 4 other youth there. When I got in there, the youth knew me. So they were coming and giving me good wishes. We went in the cell. There were 4 of us. There's very thin mattresses. So they gave me the owner's corner, the one close to the bed. I had fasted. Remember, I hadn't eaten anything. I had a headache because if I don't drink coffee, I have serious headache. So the young man went and got me a sachet water and glass of tea. I drank and I slept off. The next day in the morning, 7 p.m., they went and called my name. Oh, we're going to court. Meanwhile, they had stationed their official photographer. When we came out, he was way out there taking pictures. Me in jalabiya, no hat, and so I just realized these guys were out to dehumanize me, weaken my spirit.
You knew you were targeted?
Absolutely. We went into the bus going to court, and I told them, guys, haven't you forgotten something? They said, what's that? I asked them, how are the chains and the manacles? They started laughing and said, oh God, it hasn't gotten to that. We went to court, the lawyers were not ready, or they had to, we came back again to EFCC, and they upgraded me to a single cell. Anyway, I was in the EFCC cell for 6 days. So we went to court again, was it on the 12th, for hearing, for them to give me bail. Oh, the judge said, oh, she had a cold. So since I'd been arraigned, I wasn't going back to EFCC. I was going to be handed over to correctional services. So they took me to Kuje, and I was there for 24 days. I was supposed to have bail. It's a constitutionally guaranteed right of anybody that's accused, except if there are mitigating circumstances like murder or terrorism. But they refused me bail and took me back to Kuje for 15 days. And I'm glad they did in many ways, because I learned a lot. And we'll talk about that some more.
Right. Okay. From the outside looking in, a lot of people gave that development so many varying commentaries about what is at play here. Some say this whole case was a smokescreen to silent dissent because the administration has grown intolerant of some of your commentary alongside other critics. And some also say that perhaps let's just treat this case on its merit. Do you think both things can be true?
It's nonsense. The latter is nonsense. The first is the right thing. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his government, they are treating all of us, Nigerians, as conquered people, and all of us as his spoils of war. We are barely midway into his first term, a term that's full of deceit, a term that is tribalistic, nepotistic, a term that is hardship inflicting, a term that is state capturing, a term that is intolerant, a term that is not inclusive. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is using agents of state to stifle any dissent. And that's exactly what it is. He's using that. And that's why the world needs to know, that's why I am writing up. And we're talking about a president who was an ADECO activist himself, who ran across the border and ran away from the military because he was criticizing them, who never gave Obasanjo time to sleep, who never gave, even Buhari was criticizing them, and he cannot stand criticism. Criticizing a government in a democracy is a constitutional right of every citizen, and we're going to continue that. Putting me 6 days in EFCC or 24 days in Kuje will not do that. Even in Kuje, will continue to speak the truth.
And Prof, is there a chance that the president had nothing to do with this?
Well, that's his problem. It's his government. Whoever else is doing this in his name, we are telling the world this is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government being tyrannical and stifling dissent in a democracy. Whoever goes, whichever Gestapo is letting loose, is his government, not them. I have no problems with, is it EFCC, is it that? No, my gripe is with the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his government for what they are doing. End of story. And it's not personal for me. I am speaking for what is right and will continue to do that. Continue to do that.
And in talking about this particular case, if you can just take us back, because the EFCC's filings shows that this particular case is some 7-8 years ago, those alleged infractions were committed.
Yeah.
What do you think might have been the motivation behind this? Because you also wrote extensively while incarcerated about what's happening within the healthcare sector, especially with regards to health insurance and coverage for Nigerians.
Right. My fight in the NHIS was public. I've never had a CEO that had a very public fight about what I saw. It's very public. And if anybody goes and Googles my name, he will see my big fight in my 3-year tenure of, as the executive secretary of the NHIS. What I met there was, we, the NHIS, were supposed to be the regulators. And then the other stakeholders are the HMOs. The HMOs are the middlemen. We give them money to give hospitals. The other stakeholder is the hospital. Of course, the other stakeholder is the ministry. The other stakeholder is the National Assembly. But the biggest stakeholder that nobody was talking about was the patient himself, the people we call enrollees, who would be lost in the shuffle. When I came in, this is what I found. I mean, a big mess, cesspool of corruption everywhere. NHIS, and I said it before and I'll say it again. Of all the agencies in this country, the NHIS is an agency that has the potential to make an impactful difference in the lives of our people. Only if that potential is harnessed. But nobody was interested. The NHIS is essentially the CBN of healthcare. At that time when I was there, I was in control of more funds than most of the governors. Cold hard cash, not waiting for any money to come, to pay for healthcare for our people. But nobody is interested in doing this job. From the ministry, the HMOs, even the NHIS, everybody wanted to partake in the buffet of corruption, which I fought. My fight was very public, and people will go and see it. And I've had the privilege of sitting one-on-one with President Muhammadu Buhari, the heat of the battle, and I told him everything. And he said he was laughing, just like he usually does. And he was saying, whatever you're going through will strengthen you and build your character. And also at that time, I was sitting. I had a call from the acting chairman of the EFCC at that time, Ibrahim Mustafa Magu. Never met him. I was one of my 2 suspensions. He asked me to come over to the commission. Went into the commission and he assembled his directors. Walked in, introduced himself and the others and said, Prof, go and bring in all the documents of any HMO bank or any individual or organization that is holding NHIS money. And he walked away. And I gave them all the documents. And to his credit, EFCC of his time swung into action and recovered billions for the NHIS. When I came, nobody in the NHIS could tell me how much money NHIS has and where the money was. A year prior to the time I came, in end of September 2015, the federal government had directed all MDAs to transfer their monies from commercial banks to TSA account. I came in August the year after, in 2016. When I came, nobody could tell me how much, in my agency, nobody could tell me how much the NHS was or where the money was. So I commissioned an independent financial firm to go after all our accounts in commercial banks and come and tell me. And they presented the last quarter of 2017 this report to me. Over 13 banks, commercial banks, are still withholding, are still holding illegally over 100 billion of NHIS funds. They refuse to transfer it to TSA. And you can be sure somebody somewhere behind is getting the interest.
Right. So what happened? I mean, you clearly unraveled this particular situation. It's quite public. Why did the president then let you go? Because there was this public perception that surely you must have done something wrong for the president to have let you go.
So I think President Buhari was overwhelmed. But at the end, I was suspended twice, and at the end, the DSS stepped in and advised the government, you guys need to handle this thing, because the polity was heating up. So what happened was that there was the SGF, they created a presidential committee to investigate the NHIS, so everybody was called, I was called, the minister, they went to the minister, the board, everybody. At the end, the president let me go. He let the board go, and the minister didn't go back. So it's all three of us. He needed a clean slate. I think the president didn't have the stomach for the fight. But I felt I was left in the trenches fighting the fight alone. And that's okay.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about this particular case going forward? I mean, when is your next date?
Yeah, the next date. Trial will begin, inshallah, on the 15th of May. For them to prove the case, and we'll litigate it.
I mean, you've obviously made the correlation between this case that you're dealing with and the administration's quote-unquote intolerance for dissent.
Absolutely.
Will that take the wind out of your sail in terms of how critical you are of the administration?
No. Being critical is a right, and we'll continue to do that. And I said this is a continuation of my fight against corruption in the NHIS. Because some of those that were they were pivotal in this fight at that time, they are still important in this government. So this is a continuation of that fight, and we'll fight it.
Okay, let's talk about the administration. We're close to the 2-year mark, the halfway line of a first 4-year tenure. I mean, it's safe to say that any Nigerian who has been following your commentary on this administration knows what you're about to say. But what is your glass half full version of what we had experienced so far?
No, okay, the same time last year in May, their first anniversary was all over, and I wrote. Last year, my assessment was deception, destitution, and hopelessness. Last year. I want any Nigerian to tell me if it's gotten any better. Is inflation better? Is a bag of rice better, less than it was? Are children going to school more now? Is security better? We need to be honest with ourselves. This government is only interested in 2027, not interested in governance, not interested in alleviating the sufferings of the people that it has brought onto them. Because all these sufferings are self-made. In a country where we have very good weather, we have rain, we are not officially at war, we have literally been turned into beggars, like you see in the Sudan, or you see in Afghanistan. The son of the president had the audacity during Ramadan to come to the north and dance and visit our emirs and visit our ulamas, sit on the same chair as them and dance during Ramadan and distribute cooked rice to our youth. That's insulting. They have no understanding of our people, none whatsoever. There are Muslims in the southwest, there are Muslims in the south. I didn't see the same young man go in there and doing this to us, insulting us as if we are a conquered people and we are the spoils of war. It's very insulting.
Some would say that's a bit of an overreaction because his intentions were good.
Intentions without common sense. No sense. Life is about common sense and sensitivity. There are places I can't walk in with my shoes. There are places I walk in with my shoes. There are places, I'm 60, whatever. There are places I go and sit down on the floor. There are places I go and sit down with a person. Didn't protocol tell them? And this is lack of common sense coming and disturbing us in Ramadan. Dancing. Using presidential jet. Whoever gave him that clearance to use presidential jet to be going all over the place. Governors were going to the airport to get, in his capacity as what? Can you imagine what the press would have said if it was the only son of President Muhammad Buhari, Yusuf, that was doing what this common son is, this president's son is doing? And oh, there was a singer that brought out that song. Oh, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his way of being tyrannical, banned that song. This is free speech.
All right, Prof. Interesting conversation as always. Thank you most kindly for joining us. We do hope we'll see you in the near future to discuss more of these developments as they continue to unfold. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.